Let's talk about healthcare. If you didn't know, I worked in healthcare for almost 2 decades. I have a master's in public administration, and at the end of my healthcare career, I was a healthcare compliance officer. So I started off the career working in the criminal justice related for mental health, behavior health, substance use, substance disorder. And because I also have a bachelor's in criminal justice and another bachelor's in sociology. So I started my career more in that field, but it led me directly to healthcare. So I've worked in behavior health, mental health. I've worked in juvenile um, behavior health, and I've worked in full service healthcare, which is all the way from pediatrics to geriatrics, every day, everything in between with that. I've worked with dental. I've worked with substance use, and then I worked in community health for 7 years, where I helped to create different programs for the community based on their needs. I collaborated with other organizations like local hospitals and other types of health and wellness centers. Now, I did this across multiple counties. In my 7 year period in community health, I worked with over 11,000 single individual people, helping them, and I had to keep track because my position was based on a federal grant. So I had to turn in all my records on an annual basis. So I made huge, giant improvements. I created different funds for people like transportation, diapers, needs, people who were in poverty and needed certain things. And then after I graduated with my master's, I moved into an administrative role as a healthcare compliance officer. And beyond that, I left healthcare and chose not to go back. And the reason that I chose not to go back is because all of the healthcare is a fraud. The whole entire system is a fraud. Every single aspect of it, in every single way, is fraudulent. And I could no longer live the lie once it had been fully revealed to me, and allow that to be something that I stood for on a daily basis. So, and that all of that came to light with COVID, and so COVID was actually pretty fascinating and eye-opening for me as far as healthcare and the whole system went. But why is it fraudulent? Because there are definitely aspects of it that are valuable and that are necessary for the current type of life that we live in society. And that's because healthcare is more like post care. So, healthcare doesn't actually address any kind of root illness because it's very separated. The doctors that study health are separated, right? Like psychology or psychologists don't study with heart doctors. Heart doctors don't study with nutritionists. They are not together. They're all very separate. Pediatrics don't study with geriatrics. So they don't actually see things as a whole. They see just like different segments of the individual at different points in their life, and they make assumptions based on those perceived understandings. The truth is that because it separates everything from the whole, it creates a divided or like it's almost like I keep thinking of like a file folder, right? Like it's all divided and organized in this way, but that's not how the human system works, because the child is related to the geriatric adult of the same person, because what happens in childhood becomes the adult. It's actually been shown with the ACEs study, and you can go research this, that if you have more than like I think it's like 3 or more certain types of trauma events that happen in childhood, it will actually change your DNA structure during while you're alive. Like it doesn't wait for the next generation. It changes literally as you're a child growing up into an adult. And it doesn't have to be at a certain age. It just has to be these types of traumas that happen simultaneously. So it would be more like CPTSD, right? And that's because the emotional impact is so immense that it has the capacity to change our DNA structure in the here and now. Most people, when they think about DNA and like their genes, they think like, oh, I'm already here. I already have set DNA. I already have set genes. And that's not the truth at all. Your genes and your DNA can change at any time based on how you attune your system. And we are a system. And oftentimes healthcare, they do not function or look at the human body as a system. They look at it as like, oh, the heart is the main aspect. Well, actually, not necessarily. The skin is the largest organ in the body, but how many people go to a dermatologist? Not very many, only when there's like a serious problem. How many people go to behavioral health even though your emotional impact is the number one important factor in your health? How many people go to the dentist, and even though, did you know that if you have a infection, my mom was a dental hygienist, so I know this. If you get a dental infection, it can kill you faster than anything else because it goes right to your heart. And that infection will go right to your heart. But most people don't know these things because they haven't studied all the systems like I have. After I left healthcare, I started studying because I was the super anti-spiritual woo-woo bullshit person. I didn't believe in any of those things. All of my degrees are from universities. I studied very hard and I believed in tradition. I believed in what I thought healthcare was, which is helping people. And it's actually not helping people, it's making them sicker. Healthcare is a business. Health of the individual is your own responsibility, and you need to be accountable for that, because everyone on the outside, it didn't used to be this way, but it is now. We live in a capitalist society. Everything is a business. When someone is saying, oh, we can cure your cancer if you pay X amount of dollars, that's not healthcare. That's a business that is holding on to cures so that they can take your money. They're not trying to help you. That's a business. Cancer can be absolutely cured. Every single illness that any human can have can be cured. And illness is not detrimental if you understand yourself. If you're one and whole within yourself and you stop trusting people on outside of you telling you what to do to get your money. You need to take a really deep reality check and say, is this person actually trying to help me? Which, of course, some doctors, they go into healthcare and they are helping. But because of the money factor, do you know how many doctors I have seen push prescriptions so that they get a monthly check like a bonus check, and they're not just getting like $200, they're getting like thousands upon thousands of dollars. Like if you sell a certain drug, and you write so many prescriptions and a certain percentage of those prescriptions get filled, and if you're like really good at it, and let's say like you get 80% of your patients, like let's say you work with geriatrics, 80% of your patients are diabetic, you put them on this specific drug, you can get a $10,000 bonus every month because of that. Doctors don't make their money based on seeing a patient through insurance. Insurance takes all the money and they pay the doctors shit. They only pay like 1/3. So when you look at it, doctors are getting a majority of their salary. It's either from where they work, the location, the center, or it's from drug reps. And that's how they make their money. So when a doctor is pushing medication and they're not even asking you about like, well, what kind of foods have you been eating? Did we do blood work to see that your nutrition is okay? What other areas are you having issues with? You know, this is when you need to start questioning things and say like, is this actually for my health, or are they just trying to get a statistic so they can get more money in their pocket? We all know about the opioid epidemic. Doctors receive tons of money for prescribing opioids and to patients, and then it became an epidemic. Why? Because doctors aren't here to help you heal. They're here to remedify like a situation that is happening in the here and now and make it so that you can continue working. Do you ever wonder why your employer, when you're sick, will ask for a doctor's note? Not because to see if you're sick, you can clearly tell if someone is sick, right? It's more so that the doctor can say you can go back to work in X amount of days, so that the employer then is not liable. As someone who has worked in HR and healthcare, I know this. The employer then is not liable if something happens to you because they had a doctor's note that said you could go back to work in a certain amount of days. The whole entire healthcare system is a complete and utter scam. And it's all part of capitalist society that is not pushing for health, because the pharmaceutical companies are what run our country. They are the ones who, big farm is the ones who make our decisions. They create laws, they create diseases, they create cures, and more diseases with those cures. Now, oftentimes doctors have absolutely no fucking clue what they're doing. They are Googling in the back in their office. When they leave your appointment, they're back there and they're Googling symptoms, literally. Most of them have apps on their phones and they'll type in certain symptoms to have to be able to figure it out. Most of them have no idea what medication certain people should take and which ones other people shouldn't take. They have no idea about the interactions that can happen because they're not actually healthcare providers. They're people who learned a skill. Just like I learned a skill in college and I got a degree, they did the same thing. But they're allowed legally, because they have this certain degree, to treat you. It doesn't mean that they truly have the knowledge and the skill set and the wisdom or experience with past clients or past patients to do an accurate job of healing. So I want to make sure that you understand that when you are trying to heal yourself, relying upon doctors and modern medicine can be very beneficial, especially if you've already gone like a certain amount past like what your body can handle and you didn't catch it. It is your responsibility to be accountable for that and then make those changes in your emotions, your mental patterns, and then your behavior every day. But I would not rely upon the healthcare system to save you, because they're not going to. They're going to keep you sick until you die, and then the next one comes along. And they're going to do the same with that person. For instance, I recently knew someone who had cancer that passed away, and this person did not believe in any kind of alternative healing. This person only believed in what the doctor said. So the person did chemo, and the person refused to take any kind of like herbal teas or anything, or do anything at all that was alternative healing, because it was not on the approved cancer treatment list that her doctor gave her. And it was sad and unfortunate, because there are many things that could help with that. In fact, I found a plant growing in the backyard of this person, and I did some research on the plant, and it turns out that that plant in South America is used to cure cancer in tea form, not to eat it, but to make tea out of it, and multiple other things like diabetes, liver cleanse, all these other different things. And this person said, no, I'm not going to do that because it's not on the approved treatment list. It was almost like the earth was trying to offer a solution, and this person was like, I won't accept that because it's not from a doctor. This person continued to eat dairy products, animal products, which all sugars, all of it helps cancer grow. It's been proved that sugar creates more cancer cells, and so do animal products. So if you ever have cancer, you need to remove everything except for plants. Remove all the sugars, remove all the animal products from your diet, all the carbs, all those negative type things. You should pretty much be a vegetarian if you have cancer or any kind of really harsh illness that has been growing long term in your body. Instead of just taking pills and that type of thing, the goal is to remove, because what most people don't understand is that when we put all these things into our body, these chemicals, these preservatives, these food dyes, all of this stuff, it's not naturally part of us, and it's not designed for our body to function properly. So your daily actions and choices, you are responsible for those, because that is what creates your overall health. And then being accountable for your actions, your decisions, and your own programming, your mind, your subconscious behaviors. I know it's very hard to understand all of those things, but there are people out there who do, and they are typically alternative healers, alternative wellness. And I definitely think that we should combine the alternative modalities with modern medicine, because when we have the two flowing and functioning together, we have more of a stabilized system that can provide whole wellness, right? I hope this has brought some insight in for you, and that my previous history of working in healthcare and health centers has given you also some wisdom, because really looking back at it, it's really astonishing how I went from not believing in any. I was like that person who I just talked about who had cancer, right? Like if I had something wrong with me, I took medicine, I went to the doctor. Now I take supplements, I go get fresh air, I rest my body, I stop, I drink water, and that's it, right? Like I use oregano oil and things like that, things that come from the earth, because that's truly all of our body needs, is to be reset, right? It needs everything that's not meant to be in it taken away, and it needs peace, it needs rest, and it needs hydration and nutrients. And you could pretty much heal yourself from anything if you understand your system and really like what's the root of the disease. Because all disease is related to frequency, and all frequency is related to emotion. And the frequency goes all the way back to the spinal column, which then control the organs. And that is for another video though. Okay, have a great day, you guys.